What makes a good boss fight? That's something I've been thinking a lot about. While I would generally say I like boss fights, it seems like for every amazing boss fight, there's some dumb, stupid boss fight that's about as strong as the coconut flavor in this coconut LaCroix. So what actually sets apart a good boss fight? To answer that question, I have studied at the finest academies internationally. Or to reword it in a way that you might understand, I've just been playing video games till like 3 in the morning every night for a while. It's for education though. I'm learning. This is academically based research that I'm doing for a video. It's being productive. A great boss fight is difficult but fair. Or, well, pretty fair. If a boss fight isn't hard, then I have trouble calling it a boss. Like, one of the most iconic boss fights from any video game ever is Bowser from Mario. But the whole fight is literally just you running under him and bumping into a hammer. Now, of course, if you're playing on the Wii, that will be followed by Bowser taking enlargement pills and becoming an enormous monster and the most stressful thing I've ever experienced. But you know, at least it's fair. You control where his fireballs go based on where you are when he shoots them, so you can effectively aim them. And once you've learned how to do it the right way, you can reliably do it every time. So let's talk about Souls-likes. Now, to be fair, my experience with Dark Souls was getting about halfway through the game and then giving up. But I've played other games like it, specifically Jedi Fallen Order and its new sequel, Jedi Survivor. While the general gameplay of the Jedi games is easier than Dark Souls, the boss fights can still be brutal. All of the Inquisitor fights from the first game gave me so much trouble. To be fair, I didn't get any new stems. If you're familiar with Dark Souls, you'll know that you can get more Estus flasks. Now, those are your healing items, and you get more so you don't run out of them as often. There's a similar mechanic in the Jedi games. But I didn't know. When I played Fallen Order, I didn't know that you could get more stems, so I played the entire game with the base 2 stems. I think it made the game more difficult. The final second sister boss fight from Jedi Fallen Order is probably one of the most difficult boss fights I've ever done. Now, of course, that was with the limitations of the no extra stem challenge that I didn't realize I was doing, but it was really fun. Now, I like those boss fights, but let's just take the fair, just a little bit out of it. And now we have Ogdo Bogdo. If you've played the Jedi games, you know who I'm talking about. If you haven't though, pretty early on, you get access to an area that lets you fight this dude, Ogdo Bogdo. Oh, he's just like this goofy frog. He's just this goofy little frog guy. He's fine. He's the spawn of Satan. He's a completely optional mini boss, but he is stupid difficult and most of his attacks are unblockable, which is really great. It's fine. He's an optional boss fight. You don't really need to fight him. Anyway, in Jedi Survivor, he had a kid. In the new game, there's a mini boss called the Spawn of Ogdo. When I saw this thing, when I saw that there was another one, my first reaction was, I'm not fighting it. I already did my time. I already did this in the first game. I'm not going to worry about it again. But then I learned the only way to get the poncho was to kill it. For those of you guys who aren't familiar, the poncho is a very important part of the game. In the first Jedi game, the poncho is like, it's like a part of you. It's like a part of your soul. But in the second game, it seems like you might not get the poncho, and that's rather upsetting. So out of curiosity, I searched how to get the poncho. I wanted to know that there was a poncho out there waiting for me, and it told me that I had to beat the spawn of Ogdo. Did I then spend the next 2.5 hours trying to beat this fucking frog? Yes. Did I do the whole thing knowing that it was just for a poncho? Yes. I think I spent the majority of my time trying to make Cal the prettiest princess in the galaxy. And was it worth it? I don't know. Anyway, some other examples of difficult boss fights come from Terraria. Terraria really locked down what it means to have a good boss fight. Throughout normal progression, pretty much every single boss is gonna hurt. Once your gear surpasses them, you can rebattle them and it's technically easier. You have more defense, you do more attack damage, but the boss fights are still structured in a way that they can be difficult. Now, of course, if you're fighting the Eye of Cthulhu with the Zenith, it might be easy, but you know, that's not the point. Once you've learned how to do the boss, it'll make it easier and kind of fair. Think of a game like Spider-Man PS4. The final boss fight with Doc Ock can be difficult, but it's fair because it follows consistent attacks. Plus, most of the game is spent webbing people up and throwing anything and everything at them, and that's pretty much what you do in the boss fight. Which leads me to my next point. Now, to preface my explanation, I gotta say, I hate it when a boss is just a slightly bigger enemy with more health. I mean, like, come on. When developers do this, it kind of just feels like they phoned it in and threw it together last minute. Unique mechanics are one of the things that sets apart a boss fight from regular gameplay. But it's not a completely different game. The Nemesis boss fights in the Resident Evil 3 remake are some of the most absurd, out-of-place fights I've ever done. You go from sneakily killing zombies in a dark enclosed space, to literally fighting a giant blob monster running circles around you like a dog chasing its tail. Like, how do we just get to this big guy doing his big guy things? Actually, speaking of big guy things, what's the deal? Don't do the Seinfeld bit. What's the deal with so many boss fights revolving around just a bigger enemy chasing you? These boss fights boil down to literally just lining yourself up with a brick wall and letting the bad guy run himself into the wall, hurting himself. I want to be the one that beats him up. I want to do it. A boss fight is supposed to be a test of the skills you've been learning throughout the game. If you're playing Dark Souls, then that's your parry timing. If you're playing Pokemon, then it's how you use the Pokemon in your team. Or if you're playing Castle Crashers, it's how fast you can press the X button. Jesus Christ, keep pressing the X button. Because there's a big difference between feeling like you're good at a game and thinking it's easy. And when you compile all the skills you've learned throughout the game to fight a boss, you feel like a boss. I want to feel like a boss. A great boss fight makes the player feel like a boss. For me, this is the most important aspect of a boss fight. When I defeat the boss, I want to feel like a boss. I want to feel like I conquered the boss and I became said boss. I have defeated Darth Vader. Now I am Darth Vader. That's not how it works, dude. Shut up! Boss fights should feel like pillars of the progression of your game knowledge. Games like Pokemon do this really well. The structured gym order lets you go step by step. I'm better than the first gym, then I'm better than the second gym, and so on and so on. Also, going back to my previous points, if a fight is difficult and pushes you to use the things that you learned in the game, guess what? You are guaranteed to feel like a boss baby. Fights like Ogdo Bogdo and his demon child son have unrelenting difficulty, paired with pretty fair attacks that force you to master your parry timing and block timing. I'll tell you what, when I finally got that pink poncho, I felt like a boss. Another fight that made me feel like a boss was For the Worthy Master Mode Moonlord. My friend Logan and I played hundreds of hours of Terraria leading up to this boss fight, and I couldn't think of a better way to end that playthrough. So now I just want to talk about some boss fights that I consider great, and of course they follow these 3 points. The drunkard from Sekiro is so stupid and I hate it, but I love the fight. He's really just a big enemy with unblockable attacks and stinky breath, but he's surrounded by normal enemies. But slowly, one by one, I lured them each individually out and fought them, which let me take on the drunkard alone. I really like bullet hell bosses, like the Eyeball from Rogue Legacy and the King from Archvale. Having to expertly evade attacks to avoid spontaneous combustion is really cool. I like boss fights that focus on self-defense rather than just constant whacking. Another boss fight I like is Dr. Zomboss at the end of Plants vs. Zombies. It's hard but fair, you use what you've done the entire game, and I feel like a boss defending my house. Another great one is Cynthia from Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. If you're not using your team to its full potential, you're probably not going to beat Cynthia. Now, of course, if you have a level 100 starter, it might be easier, but you know. Now these boss fights might be on the easier side, but I can't just not mention them. And those 2 boss fights are the Ender Dragon from Minecraft and Super Mario 64 Bowser. Both of the fights revolve around using the game's core function to beat a really not that difficult boss. But there are some clear pitfalls in the fight, like, I don't know, you can just botch your throws in Super Mario 64, and you can accidentally look at 13 different Endermen while fighting the Ender Dragon. And the final boss I want to mention is probably the hardest boss that I've ever faced. Now sure, I was a kid, and so it might not actually be that hard, but I remember this boss terrorizing me. Anyway, this boss, this brick wall of a boss, it's Mace Windu from Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, the game. Yeah, so that's what I consider a great boss fight. Do you guys agree? I want to hear what your guys' favorite boss fights are, and if they fit with these 3 points. Go ahead and leave that in the comments below. Anyway, if you liked this video, you'll also like this video where I talk about comfort games. I do mention boss fights in them, briefly, but you know, there's a little connection between this video and that video. So, go watch that one. Subscribe to my channel. I should have said that sooner. Drive safe, I don't know.